by the way, speaking of what you said, what you call them impossible attainments, I need also to congratulate you on keeping Shabir at bay, because I can't do it. But let me just say that if you look at the growth record of the two countries over the last 30 years, you'll see, I think you pointed it out, Governor, a continuous rise in the average growth rate in Bangladesh, sustainable growth rising over time, and if you look at Pakistan, you won't see that. That is, I think, a major difference, big ups and downs. And secondly, let's face it, in 1971, at the time of separation, they had most of the industry and most of the assets. So I think you started from a much lower base. And that's the way I hope I answered the question 2 years ago. And thirdly, I won't take much longer. I was going to ask about jute myself, but I was going to ask about it because I was worried that it was still a parastatal and a drag on your economy, but you told me it's gone private, and that is very good news.
There are only 23 plants of the government, of which roughly 13 are working, 10 may work.
Do you still think that the parastatal sector is a big drag on the economy as it was when I was there?
Well, that drag is still there. It has not been liquidated. That's all. But it is becoming a smaller proportion of the total executive of the country. That's all.
And the last question in our set is for Shabir.
Will the minister be so kind and tell us if his administration believes in full free market economy?
No.
And if so, okay, you don't.
There is no free market economy anywhere today. See?
All right. What
All
will be?
these economies.
All right. Thank you for this quick response.
Because regulation, everybody is getting more and more of regulation. Yes, you are free to work, but regulation, even in this country.
I appreciate your quick response. And what is the status of the nationalized banks and some other private sector companies? Which
No, nationalized banks are only a
I'm
few.
talking about the 26 famous companies.
Huh?
The so-called 26 companies in Bangladesh.
26 companies.
Okay. Well, I'll talk to you privately.
Nationalized banks, there are only a few at the moment. And they are also being liberalized in a big way. And once we start giving their shares out in the market, I think the government control will be substantially reduced. Okay. Very important question was made from behind. Growth and environment. In my list of points, I had something to say about it. My points were land use planning, climate, floods and population. All of them relate to environment. It is true. Growth tells of an environment. And so you have to devise ways by which you provide a kind of matching situation. Take, for example, Bangladesh. We have very little of coal use in the country. It's going to substantially expand. And that is, we know, is a polluting agent, one of the worst polluting agents. All that we can do is take advantage of the current developments in terms of elimination of polluting elements from the coal, from generation of power through coal. And there are good examples. It's expensive, of course. It becomes a bit more expensive. Fluidized bed, which is used in Colorado, is one of the finest things for reducing coal dust emission. Bangladesh is fortunate that the coal that it produces, it has minimal sulfur content. So I think we have to acknowledge that it will be a sort of an attack on the environment. Yes, at the same time we are also doing a few other things. For example, we we are trying to give great importance to what is called drainage of water, dredging, and protection of river routes. What we have done is we have identified not all the river routes that we have, but limited number of routes which we want to keep open for all time, because it's much easier to do that. And if they are the major ones, then they are also very helpful in drainage of water. Mind a geographical disability of Bangladesh. Of the Ganges-Brahmaputra magma basin, we only have about 5% of the total basin, 6% in fact. And we drain the water of the entire basin. Entire basin. Calcutta is the only other through the Farakka, but that's a limited drainage. The water of this huge basin, covering China, very large part of China, India, Nepal, whole of Nepal, not whole, most of Nepal, all of Bhutan. This entire drainage is done by Bangladesh. So I always say to my friends that you should pay us for it. And the payment should be in both environmental terms and money terms. We are very careful about environment. That's not because we do harm to it, but we know that whoever may be doing harm to environment, the impact will be on us. Look at ozone depletion, ozone depleting substances. Bangladesh has practically got rid of ozone depleting substances, except in the dyes and chemicals industry and fencing. In many others, we have been able to eliminate it altogether. It's a small thing, but I just wanted to mention because I know it very well personally. And in other areas of what is called environmental program, Bangladesh is one of the rare countries where environmental programming is embedded in the overall programming of the country. It's one of the very few countries, I could say only country, but I don't think so, because I heard from the President of the World Bank that there are one or two other countries who are also doing the same. Okay. So that's all that I can say. It is true that growth means an attack on environment. And so in making this attack, you have to be very cautious and protective of the environment as much as you can. Well, Bangladesh is one of the worst sufferers of the climate change syndrome, much worse than Maldives, because if you take the number of people, Maldives is nothing. It's only 200,000. Although it is the disappearance of a country altogether, see, but then if you take the number of people, then it is perhaps the most affected country in the world is Bangladesh.
Can I add on this, the environment and growth debate which is going on? Bangladesh is encouraging, inclusive growth. So inclusive growth means that you are going to the smaller people and encouraging. Even this year, the growth really came from the smaller kind of, people, and they really not great polluters. These are larger ones. And again, the banking, central bank is working on this environment as well. It has created a fund called Renewable